Welcome to AI for Founders. I am Ryan Estes, and I am not AI. At least not yet. Actually, this morning, it's early. I'm probably barely I. Today, I'm joined by Chris Pitchford, founder of Brev.io, an early-stage startup that just hit #1 on Product Hunt with a bold vision to transform business performance using AI agents. Brev listens across your tools, Slack, Jira, Salesforce, and flags risks, updates progress, and helps teams stay aligned without the clutter of status meetings or clunky dashboards. Chris brings unique sight, having scaled an OKR SaaS company to 1,200 clients before it was acquired by Microsoft. Now he's back in the startup trenches, building lean, moving fast, and rethinking how organizations execute strategy, especially in a future where half the work might be done by autonomous agents. We get into AI orchestration, enterprise sales, pricing psychology, and even protein goals, because alignment isn't just about business KPIs, it's also about protein consumption. Let's dive in. But first, some business. This episode is brought to you by Kitcaster, the podcast booking agency that puts funded founders on the mic. You've built something incredible. Now it's time to tell your story. Kitcaster books you on podcasts that your customers already listen to, so you can win trust, grow influence, and drive revenue without chasing press or running paid ads. We've worked with over 800 startups, helping founders turn conversations into conversions. Whether you're closing your next round, building a category, or launching a new product, Kitcaster gets you in front of the right ears. Ready to share your story? Head to kitcaster.com and let's go on podcasts. That's Kitcaster by Moburst. Chris.
What's up, Brian? Nice to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I really appreciate you taking the time on a Friday afternoon. It's hard to get me to do anything on a Friday afternoon, so I know it's a big ask. I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. Happy to be here, and yeah, I'm right there with you. Excited for the weekend, but we got software to build, so we're here working too.
Let's push the software. Let's talk about it right out of the gate. We're talking about Brev. This is a brand new company that you launched, I believe, this month. I saw your product hunt launch went to #1. If I was to summarize using GPT, GPT says you're an AI-powered business performance platform.
Yeah, I think
how close are they?
We're still working on getting to the platform part. We definitely have aspirations to become an operating system to help companies execute their business goals. Today, and what we launched on Product Hunt is a set of AI agents that continuously monitor and track your business goals, your OKRs, by listening and monitoring the tools you already use. So the product helps flag you of risks, keep you on track, and then take care of all the nitty-gritty updates and sort of manual things you have to do to achieve your business goals and targets and KPIs.
Cool. And everyone kind of looks at agents as being a little bit different. How are you defining an agent?
Sure. I would say an agent is, AI that's able to perform long-tailed tasks over longer durations and break down those tasks into smaller, sort of achievable tactical tasks for it, and come back to you when it has something of value or wants you to check in to make sure that it's on the right track. So I think almost the duration, Ryan, of how quickly and how it's able to execute on your behalf.
Okay, cool. So let's imagine, let's just go through a case study. What would be the best way to use the tool?
Sure. If you are a chief of staff that's running a business with sort of 200 employees, you're 200 plus, you're underwater right now. I was speaking to a chief of staff at a major bank in Silicon Valley earlier this week, and he's supposed to be thinking about, how do I strategically align these teams? How do I get everybody rowing in the same direction? How do I actually help connect the strategy from the C-suite down to the execution of all the teams and departments, when really he's spending time in spreadsheets and nudging people in Slack, reminding them to do their WBR or check in on their goals. So instead, with Brev, we can automate that whole life cycle for not just the chief of staff so they can orchestrate the programs and systems, but make it really easy for those execution teams who just want to execute. They don't want to report on
Yeah.
things they did last week. They don't want to log into new tools. So how do we make it really simple for them to say, hey, this is where we are. Here's some blockers. Here's how we're fixing them. And let me get back to my job, while the chief of staff, that orchestrator, is able to get that insight and that context so that they can make data-driven decisions.
Yeah. It sounds like it kind of in the spirit of like asynchronous communication. So it's reducing meetings and things like that, like superfluous spreadsheets, perhaps.
I think the common stat is the average knowledge worker spends 40 hours a month in unneeded and unnecessary meetings. It's pretty insane. And so I think there's the standpoint, which is, you know, this meeting could have been an email, or this meeting could have been a Brev. There's also the flip side where it's, well, hold on, this email should
Yeah.
actually be a meeting. And so I think
Yeah.
we see both from customers. I think what's most important there is meetings should be designed to drive action, make decisions,
Hmm.
and move the ball forward. Not a place where we're getting everybody up to date on context, right? Everyone should know the
Yeah.
progress and context when we walk into a meeting. How do we drive action and make decisions? And our product enables that totally.
Cool. I love it, man. I'm totally on point with that. One thing that organizationally, task management, project management, I always just took tips from NASA because I figure if they could get to the moon, it's good enough for me. And what they did is always just a punch list. So like you sit down for everything. It's like this to this to this to this to this, and you just check the box. So project management, you find yourself in a position where people are like, hey, what's the status with this? There's all these bottlenecks where I can't get to this thing until you complete that thing. And there's really no worse feeling than when someone's pinging you because you're their bottleneck. Rather when you come use a primitive checklist type system, then you just see, you're like, oh, okay, here's how it's progressed. I know that once this is checked off, then I can execute. So it's not even asynchronous communication. Rather, it's just like transparency of where people are at in the product or the process so that you can just step in when the time is right.
Yeah, you got it. You touched on something there, Ryan. Companies that check in on their goals statistically are 2.5x more likely to hit their goals if they check in weekly.
Yeah.
Pretty simple stat, right? A lot of customers come to us and they're doing sort of monthly or bi-quarterly check-ins toward goals, and that's not how you can keep them top of mind. It's like losing weight, Ryan. I'm always trying to get in better shape. I've struggled with it my whole life, right? And when I'm dialed in, I got my Apple Watch connected to, iCal and my caloric intake, and I'm measuring my sleep and doing my workouts. Hey, I'm hitting my results. When I'm not tracking those things and maybe checking in on the scale once a week, then I'm not doing so well, right? And so the frequency of
Yeah.
assessment is so important, and we make it really easy to get those insights from 100, 200, 500, 1,000 people every week so that leadership actually has context. How do we drive a decision? Now we have all this contextual data, because just knowing something is red, yellow, green isn't enough to drive a decision. Why is it red? Why is it yellow? What's the bottleneck? And last point there, because you touched on NASA. Do you know what the janitors said they did every day when they worked at NASA back in the 50s and 60s? If you asked
No, what'd they
if you
say?
asked a janitor at NASA what they did, they told you that they were trying to get a man on the moon. And
Yeah.
and this is a common example where if you do have strategic alignment, connection, and clarity where everyone's pulling on the same rope, you get that bottoms up innovation and people feel empowered because they're connected to that goal of getting a man on the moon in that example. So that NASA story comes up sometimes in my line of work, Ryan. So you touched on it.
Beautiful. I love that. Speaking of fitness, how are you hitting your protein goals? Do you struggle with that?
it like when I had a trainer and I was, not building a software company and I was, more focused on this, my trainer wanted me to get 200 grams of protein a day,
I
right?
know.
Right. And,
It's unbelievable.
luckily my stomach, like I can handle that. It doesn't like affect my digestive system or anything. I think, I've heard you on some of your other podcasts talk about iCal, right? I've always used
Yeah.
MyFitnessPal. And I think that's the best way is just tracking it, right? And then you start to get in a rhythm where okay, this chicken breast is going to get me 30, 40 grams. And so, and then how do you get real protein and supplement it with, protein shakes and protein bars to kind of get you there. But hey, I'm not the fitness guy, Ryan. Like, luckily, this camera is right from my shoulders up to my head here. I'm not going to add any founders a lot of value on the fitness side, unfortunately, that,
Nice.
that are listening at least.
So Brev is super cool. I mean, and it's tackling a very specific goal. I would love to hear what was the inception of this and how has your career kind of brought you there? Because you're an interesting case that you've worked in a gigantic company, you work in startups, you kind of bounced around and done a bunch of different stuff. How did you land on this idea of Brev?
Yeah, yeah, Ryan. Well, first of all, I love the target customer, the chief of staff or the VP of business operations. They get to drive decisions, they get to drive tooling, and they get to get deals done as well. And so they're really awesome to work with. And I think their purpose is to connect strategy to execution. So what better software to build that actually helps other teams execute on their mission? So I'm pretty, I spring out of bed every day to work on this problem because we get to help other companies succeed. Back in 2019, I joined a small company. It was an OKR software company. Okay. This, we were 5 people holed up in a WeWork in Seattle. And very quickly, my go to market teams were able to scale the customer base from 0 to 1,200 customers in under 3 years. We were really
Whoa.
fortunate where Slack, Dropbox, Coinbase, Plaid, Discord, all of these amazing, fast moving companies adopted our software at scale. So I got backstage passes to the chaos, these chiefs of staff and VPs of business operations at these super fast moving companies, how they were actually struggling and the sort of hell they were going through in spreadsheets and other tools. Anyways, the mission kind of ended quickly. Microsoft acquired the business in late 2021, early 2022. That was an
Wow.
amazing experience. I spent a year at Microsoft. I thought I knew what enterprise sales was. I didn't until I got to Microsoft. That was eye-opening. But the story continues. I started working with much larger organizations that have different challenges. Now we're talking about change management. How do we get employees to think more outcome oriented, right? How do they measure results properly? And anyways, as my tenure at Microsoft came to an end, ChatGPT came out. And you know what? I liked my old job, Ryan. I liked helping companies solve these complex problems. And I thought I could do it a little bit better. And so I'm doing the same thing, but with a 10x better solution. And I think the architecture change of having agents connected to each goal, where all that agent does every day is how do I help Ryan get from A to B as fast as possible? That's really what inspired the story. So I've got some domain expertise in the space, love the customer, and I have a vision of how I want our product to be used, and I wanted to put that taste and craft into the world. I'd say.
So cool. And as you're kind of starting to build this, your team, it looks like is around 11. Is that right now?
We're sub 10 people right now,
Yeah.
super lean, mainly engineering. I'm the only salesperson, or we all do customer support and customer success. Um, and I guess I'm sales and grow to, well, my all my time goes on product, but I'm the only salesperson and marketer in the company right now. Yeah,
Nice.
that's where we are. Yeah.
How'd you finance it?
We have raised some capital from some really amazing investors, mainly angels. Ryan, I took the approach of really wanting the right people around our table, so to speak. So CFOs, COOs, chiefs of staff, VPs of business operations, some VPs of finance in there as well. People that really care about OKR, goal setting, business rhythms, sort of the core competencies of our software. And they've, all also have a lot of success behind them as well, and where they work and the sort of awesome companies. So mainly angels to this point, Ryan, and I've honestly invested my own capital into the business as well. That's how much I believe in it. We haven't raised any institutional capital yet. We always wanted to get to a set of customers obsessed with the product, couldn't pry it from their cold sort of dying fingers if you tried. And at that point, we would go to investors, and we're sort of at that point now, Ryan. So
Nice.
yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting. We
That's so
waited
exciting.
we waited a little too long to launch. You mentioned Product Hunt going number one. The product is really capable and comprehensive for like a launch. We knew what enterprises want. We're SOC 2 Type 2 compliant, so we maybe went against conventional wisdom of launching frequently and launching with something smaller and more sparse. The product's quite capable in its current form today.
Cool.
Yeah.
Selling into enterprise customers as a startup is notoriously difficult. How do you approach that?
First, first we went the design partner route. I think design partner is a liberally used term in like early stage software. I feel like some investors might say, well, are those your friends that are your design partners, or are these real customers? So we took an approach where we went cold to hundreds of the ICPs that we thought would be a good fit for our product. And through hundreds of interviews, not only did we learn sort of what customers wanted in a product, we started to suss out folks that would be good candidates for design partners. Okay. We
Yeah.
invited them to be a part of an exclusive program. In exchange, they got the product free for 6 months. But on our side, we needed to integrate into their data systems for it to make sense. We wanted to be in Jira, Snowflake, Salesforce, kind of all the key systems of record, so we could learn and sort of adapt our product. And we signed terms. So these design partners went through InfoSec and legal to work with us. So they were pretty significant partnerships to generate. And so we went with 6 specific design partners. And so I guess I just go on to say that when you're starting out, follow that process where you reach out to the ICPs, you sort of filter to the right ones, and then you actually legitimize the relationship. And if anyone wants to contact me, I have a 2-page document that we used to actually contract those design partners. And then I think early investors appreciated that and felt there was a lot of legitimacy behind the actual design partners building the product with us. When it came time to launch, it paid off. I mean, we heard people say, wow, the craft and the thoughtfulness that went into this software is like immense. And that meant a lot to us. But really, it was because of the customer engagement throughout the process. It was because of the design partners that really helped us. And then at some point, just to finish up here, Ryan, sorry to be so long-winded. At some point, you got to call it. Okay, we charge money now for the product, right? Because I think it's easy to have your product hat on and jump on a demo. Hey, what do you like it? And you're sort of like insecure and vulnerable about what you've built. You've got to build enough conviction where you build the pricing model, you stick to it, and you really validate that will work for customers, and now you charge. But of course, your grandfathered design partners, you can be as nice to them as you want, and you should be. But yeah, I think you got to call it at some point. Hey, we charge money. Here's the pricing, and now we're doing demos. So let's go.
Cool. I've never heard that term design partners before, and it's brilliant. Like a part of the validation process that I always put myself to just as a gut check is to have 100 phone calls on a product to make sure that I'm serving somebody well. But then also at the end of the day, hey, do I really want to do this? Because, shiny
Is
object
the problem
syndrome.
big enough, right?
Yeah. Is it big enough? Exactly. So I would love to hear if you're doing hundreds of these calls with design partners, you're looking to validate your ideas, but also kind of plumb them for ideas and features that they might want. How do you structure those calls?
Yeah, so there's great content on this online. I know First Round Capital has put some really great structure together. The mom test is the most conventional wisdom, Ryan. It's like how do you ask questions that aren't leading? And then how do you not have happy ears? Because the
Yeah.
design partners will lie to you, unfortunately. It's not that they're trying to lie to you, but it's really hard to be direct um, and say what you really mean to a founder that's coming in with all this energy on this problem. Getting to money, okay, how much would you pay to solve this problem, is a big differentiator of whether the problem's real or not. Because you might talk to someone for 20 minutes that swears that this is a pain point, and then you ask them, well, okay, what, $30,000 a year, 40,000, what would be prohibitively too expensive? And you start to ask those questions and you get to the bottom of it. But there's some great frameworks on YouTube, and anyone can reach out to me as well for the types of honestly, ChatGPT is going to give you some great interview questions if your prompt just includes, hey, using the mom test framework, help me deliver interview questions that are going to help me get to the bottom of whether I'm building something that's actually valuable and whether people will pay for it. That's what I would go with, Ryan.
That's great. It's interesting how you're positioning how much would you pay for it or how much would be cost prohibitive. You're not going in and being like, "Hey, this is $10, would you buy it?" So you're allowing them to build a range kind of. Is that
What would feel stupidly cheap to you, Ryan?
yeah.
Okay, you're getting a number. Okay, what would feel prohibitively expensive? Okay, now you're getting like a much bigger number. And I'm not going to say you're in the middle, but you're a little bit more anchored to the prohibitively expensive, but not quite over it. You're probably right below it. I think that's a good sort of eyeball test of maybe what you should price your product at.
Yeah. Amazing. So the business model for Brev, is this kind of a software subscription model per seat?
You know that, yeah. So funny topic. Yeah, right now we actually do a flat fee for a certain amount of pricing users, but it's loosely based on seat count. And then there's a bit of a hybrid model for tokens. If you're sort of have 100 users in that plan and everybody's pounding on the copilot and the summarization AI features like 10 times a minute, then there's extra tokens that you'll need to pay for. So there's a hybrid model there. I would have loved, Ryan, to disrupt on the pricing model and only charge customers when they hit their business goals. How cool would that be if we only got paid if your team hit its goals? And maybe that's
Yeah.
aspirational and we'll still get there, but price disrupting on pricing is also a great way to get market share. What we've found, Ryan, on the enterprise, they want predictability. And I think launching with something that was completely outcome based would have almost been more confusing to our mid-market enterprise teams. Like they're in procurement, they're procurement teams that are buying, they're like, hey, they want to see.
Well, how much it cost?
Yeah, they want the seat count.
Yeah.
They want the reliability and predictability. So that's what we've found. Maybe my aspirations, but also reality of meeting customers where they are.
Yeah. As a founder building software, how do you think about vibe coding? If things progress in 2 years, how easy will it be for somebody to just knock off your product? And how do you kind of build moats to protect for that?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a really good question. Let me think about that one for a second. I think for us, the differentiation, like the model itself isn't our moat. Our data and the embedded workflows are. So once we
Yeah.
become like a system of record for the customer's goals, and then just the foundational infrastructure to support their operating rhythms, every WBR, MBR, and review is tracked and supported by Brev. That just gives us an ever-growing corpus that no public model actually sees. And because we reach users in the flow of work and Slack and outside of Brev, that's the core product thesis. Ryan, is that you don't have to log into our product. We become part of their muscle memory. So I think competitors could always rent the same model tomorrow or vibe code some product, but I think without the workflows, the training data that we have, the domain expertise, and then even just the customers, we would just continue to accelerate. That being said, it's clearly impressive what's happening on the vibe coding side. Um, I don't know if this is the right take, but I tend to think as software becomes easier to build, yes, new products will get built. DocuSign was a great example I saw pop up on LinkedIn where you could just sort of build that internally pretty quickly. But I
Yeah.
also think that the software teams that are already building SaaS products are also going to accelerate and get that much faster, better, and their workflows are going to improve as well. So I think the rising tide of vibe coding is just going to raise all boats, right? I don't
Yeah.
think like
Totally.
Notion's going to stay where it is. It's going to continue increasing in terms of product quality. So yeah, that's my thinking there.
This episode is brought to you by MoBurst, the AI-first growth engine trusted by iconic startups like Calm, Robinhood, Reddit, Uber, and Google. MoBurst is a digital full-service mobile-first marketing agency that helps companies to scale and become category leaders. Whether you're finding product market fit or ready to accelerate growth, MoBurst delivers creative, data-driven solutions that help with scale and efficiency and impact. At MoBurst, we're not just guessing what works, we're predicting it. As an AI-first agency, MoBurst uses cutting-edge tools to analyze user behavior, adapt creative in real time, and uncover hidden growth opportunities. The result, marketing that's faster, smarter, and built to convert. From early-stage startups to global brands, we've helped hundreds of companies overcome complex challenges, unlock new audiences, and optimize every metric that matters. At MoBurst, we believe that creative thinking, advanced technology, and data are the core drivers of success at scale. If you're serious about scaling your business with precision and purpose, it's time to talk to MoBurst. Visit moburst.com and let's build something category-defining together. Yeah. I mean, I like that because it's optimistic. I think that also, I believe that as well, there's more competition, brings more features, more virality between things. Things will dilute, but also solid products will always rise to the top. That
Yeah.
being said, it's optimistic, but there is an innate kind of existential terror
Mm.
of AI kind of built in. Like, what keeps you up at night when you're worried about AI? What are the components that like scare you?
Yeah, I think, maybe not today. Today I'm just hyper focused on customers and solving their pain points because ultimately that's what it comes down to, Ryan. And tracking everything in AI is good, but it can be almost distracting at the same time. But I'm following all of it. I'll tell you what it felt like the first 6 months that I was building and thinking about it. It felt like it was moving so fast that you were walking on quicksand,
Yeah.
and that was almost slightly overwhelming. It's like the thing that I build today, if I'm not building for 6 to 12 months out, it's going to be obsolete by the time it's done. The next wave will already be here. And so that was keeping me up at night early on, is this feeling of walking on quicksand. Today, what keeps me up at night with AI? I don't have like, huge privacy concerns or concerns like around the existential threat of labor yet. I'm generally like optimistic on that front. Um,
Yeah.
but I think, yeah, I think innovation, I think what keeps me up at night is just generally being able to move as quickly as you need to move to be able to build any startup, period. Whether it's a
Yeah.
podcasting company or a software product, you got to be able to move fast. And I think that energy stays with me always. That would be the same pre AI or post AI world, right? And I think that keeps me up at
Yeah.
night, anyways. Yeah, yeah, good question.
The, it's because there's too many things that keep me up all night worried about AI.
Yeah, yeah, totally, totally.
trying to trying to get some salve. You talked about like it's interesting because startups that serve enterprises, it's almost like a planet that's orbiting the sun really quickly because enterprise moves so slow. You talk about meetings and committees and like, doing, legal work just to get the design partners together. All of those things are very slow, but as a startup, you got to move insanely fast. Is was is the speed and kind of like fun, for lack of a better word, what brought you back into startups?
Yeah, yeah, totally. Because I even took a CRO role at like a venture-backed startup from some, and once I was there, I was like, I got to get back to building. I might as well. I think now's the time, and I think your passion kicks in for wanting to build a product. Yeah, in terms of, I guess, yes, to answer your question, that's what I love. That's where I feel most comfortable. And I love just having the impact of working, something I do or something my team and I do today will actually have impact to customers tomorrow. And so that iteration cycle is where I have the most fun. And then I guess the creativity side of it, being able to get into Figma and sort of even vibe code, like features that we're thinking about, and then have them actually come into the product quite quickly. Like that's fun. I actually, although I'm classically trained in enterprise sales, product's the most fun for me. So being able to even get in Cursor, LangGraph, and Figma and Vercel is a great vibe coding tool, or where I at least started with it. And yeah, that's super fun. But I also think on the enterprise sales side, there are ways to accelerate sales cycles, Ryan. And so if I had a team of reps and they were, complaining to me about sales cycle velocity, I'd have something to say about that in terms of how you can increase velocity with the enterprise as well. So yeah, I tend to not get too bogged down about speed with mid-market and enterprise clients. I think if you're talking to the right people, you can make things happen quick, but it's just effective project management, right? You got to drive the deal forward. And I think if you're doing that well, it's not horrible. Now, decision making at enterprises can take a long time, right?
Yeah.
So I understand that totally.
Yeah, I love technical founders, but being kind of more of a sales revenue guy myself as a founder,
Hmm.
I love your perspective. And I think if the tools are doing anything, they're giving folks like me the opportunity to help with that design process, like you're talking about. Like you get into Figma, if you're talking to a designer, you're like, that's gorgeous, I know, but nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. They want this. Salespeople have a way to really
Mm.
boil it down to like what helps move the deal along, what are the benefits that people really want. And I caught a quote that you said, and I was hoping you would unpack it for me a little bit. It says, revenue generation isn't a sales problem, it's an organizational problem. So I would
Where
love
did
to
I
hear
say
kind of
that?
what you meant by that. LinkedIn.
Revenue generation is an organizational problem, not a sales problem. Sure. And just to confirm, that's what I said. That sounds like what I meant. Well, I guess in the breadth of what our product does, I'll give you an example. Let's say a company's goal is to double ARR. We're a T2, D3 company. We're on the venture hamster wheel, and we need to grow quickly, right? Triple 2 years, double the next three. That's how we get to 100 million in ARR. So if our goal is for annual fiscal year 2026 is to double, we got to get from 25 to 50. That's not just sales, right? There's a whole bunch of things that we would measure to try to get from 25 to 50. First, churn. Then we've got expansions. And then we've got net new revenue and demand. Um, Revenue is going to be in Salesforce. Demand, top of funnel, is going to be in HubSpot. Churn might be in Gainsight, and expansions are going to also be in Salesforce. But don't forget about all the product commitments we need to complete to meet our expansion commitments from customers. Those customers aren't going to expand until this feature, this integration, this capability is there. That's Jira or Linear. That's multiple systems of record that would each need manual data synthesis to answer the simple effing question: are we on track to double ARR this year or not? And I think that's what I mean from a product perspective. That's what our product does, is help. But on the actual company side, you need everybody pulling on the same rope, right? Products
Yeah.
and engineering have a huge influence into meeting those expansions, net new revenue targets, et cetera. So I don't know, maybe that's a long-winded answer, but sort of how I think about everybody rowing in the same direction.
Yeah, well, and it is such a great opportunity for a product here because of all these tools, and they're always throwing bells and whistles at you. But if you're Rev Ops guy, you're like, well, these three indicators from Salesforce are important. These three from HubSpot are important. If I log into either one of those systems, I'm going to be bogged down by little red bubbles telling me I need to do something else. But being able to pull it all together to start to tell that story so you can move quickly.
That's our
It's brilliant.
product.
I could see why.
That's our product.
Yeah, I
You
love
got
it.
it. You got it.
It's
But
so
you
cool.
said,
Now,
it's funny, the fragmented data silos are there. Wait till we get to fragmented agent silos,
yeah,
where it's not HubSpot and Salesforce. It's, Devin and 11x's sort of AI SDR. These agents start to own a lot of the data. And so how do we bring transparency and alignment when our AI teammates are working side by side with us? That creates a new complex problem that we're thinking about as well.
what are you thinking about with that?
Well, I think that no one knows what percentage of the workforce is going to be agents, um, but our product is we convert strategy to execution. Right? Strategy is the plan. Execution is what we're supposed to do to achieve the plan. And what percentage of execution, all the work, the projects, the initiatives, the metrics, all the things we need to do, is going to be handled by agents 1, 3, 5 years from now? Is that 10%? Is that 20? Is that 50% of execution in 5 years is handled by autonomous agents? Um, that means that you'll need an orchestration layer where the marketing team has maybe 50% humans and 50% agents, or there could be thousands of them as well. And so you'll want to align those agents towards the same business goals. AI, just like humans, works really well when it has a goal. And so I think the orchestration layer for how that's conducted for transparency across the business, so you can see the alignment of what those agents are actually working on, the visibility, there's going to need to be an orchestration layer. And I don't think it's going to be owned by IT. I think the
Yeah,
business is going to continue to buy 11x's AI SDR, or the marketing team's going to buy Jasper's agent. Sales, the CRO is still going to buy these sales agentic tools. I don't think it's going to be IT there provisioning agents to different areas of the business, right? And so that's how I think about the world is humans and agents will need to be aligned to the same business goals up to the strategy. And that's what our product does.
yeah. I've been thinking a lot about agentic work, particularly as they're getting smarter, faster. They're supercharged, running 24 hours a day, just absolutely cranking stuff out. I can't think of more annoying thing than 50 agents pinging me on Slack with needs and things like that. Like the way, like
That's going
the
to, yeah.
organizational communication to me, I think there's going to be a way to report that isn't words and numbers. So it could be like, what if your screen just had a hue of green as things were going well in the direction that you wanted? What if there was just different ways that it could create environmental kind of like
Mm,
communication in a way that like tone of voice does, like I know like when well, put it like this. My kind of philosophy for parenting was just be so cool to your kids and create such a positive energy that just the absence of it is enough to stop whatever you want to happen.
mm,
And I call it come on, bro, parenting, because really I didn't have to spank or punish my kids. I just really, all I do is be like, oh, come
come
on,
on,
bro.
bro. That's awesome. That's
You
great.
know, so it's just a tone of voice that can change where it's like, oh man, and you realize that the tone of voice changes the energy in the whole room. Like and this is kind of the communication I'm gonna want, I think, from AI, probably from like robots, whenever the robots start showing up in my cupboard and organizing my dishes and whatever, is I don't want to communicate to them like I'm used to talking to people.
Like an
Only
intern
because
or
I
something. Yeah.
I don't want to feign like, professionalism with my robot. You know what I mean? And probably I don't want to, I would like to see how much how little communication I could get the end results that I want. I don't know. This is probably near future science fiction type talk, but I think it's going to revolutionize in a lot of different ways that we're communicating. I mean, right now, Siri and everything's going to like, oh, it has some psychedelic orb when you're
Yeah. Yeah.
communicating with the oracle of LLMs. So maybe it's a spin on that, or there's just different ways that like all of this massive amount of work and information can be communicated without hitting, a spreadsheet or a Slack channel or having to read a block of text. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the
I don't
interface
know.
for how that's all going to play out is interesting. Obviously, we all saw OpenAI's acquisition of Jony Ive's company last week, which was a $6.5 billion acqui-hire. But I think my friends have made fun of me about that. I think there's a pretty great product that they're working on too. So I'm excited to use that. But I was listening to your pod with Nikhil at Vappy, and
Yeah.
deep in that pod, he talks a little bit about just like we're not going to have these laptops and sort of phones hanging around 10 years from now. And he really believes that voice is going to be the communication layer. And I was listening to that in my living room the other night. And yeah, I liked his perspective on the world and how he sees things coming together. And sort of when I close my eyes, I can definitely get behind some of his beliefs on where things are going, Ryan. So that's a good one if your
Dude, I'll
listeners
follow.
didn't listen to that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'll follow that guy wherever he's going. That's one of the coolest guys, just innately cool guys I've ever talked to in my life.
He's honestly,
Amazing.
I moved to the Bay Area recently, and he was incredibly helpful in making some intros for me. So
Cool.
big shout out.
Yeah, and Voppy is absolutely killing it. The what do you think that is? What do you think Joni Ives has up his sleeve? Is it a glasses?
A
Is it a
pendant, some sort of
yeah
pendant.
pendant? Is it is it a watch? Is it what is it?
A screen. I haven't done enough research. There's hints and clues. There's it's got to incorporate voice, but I don't. What I will say is I don't think they're going to just put another version of a screen device out in the world. I think they would wait to launch until they had something that they felt was truly an order of magnitude better. So, but it is fun to guess, right? What's it going to be? There has been like I forget the name of that pendant product, but there's been sort of tools that have come out in the past. But I guess hey, before the iPhone, there was the BlackBerry, the Palm OS, so many different tools that came first. So we'll see. But I don't know if you've used Granola for your calls at all, Ryan. Have you heard
I
of
don't
it?
know it.
Oh man, and I got some insight that you might ask for recommendations. That tool has changed my life for sure. It's probably the single best AI productivity tool that I've actually really incorporated into my day to day. And I
Really?
remember thinking to myself, like, yeah, it just records your calls, but it doesn't have a Zoom bot sitting in your notes like, Fathom or Read AI or some of these other tools. I just never could really adopt those ones. But Granola is the first one where it connects directly to your OS and your microphone and just delivers better quality results. And I was thinking to myself, damn, I wish they had a mobile app so that when I'm doing face to face customer meetings, I could be capturing those notes and action items just off my mobile phone. I had a meeting with someone recently, and we were riffing on the same thing. But back onto what we were talking about, are we going to walk into like if there's some pendant that you're wearing or glasses, and someone's just trying to document their lives? I guess if you're at a bar, are you going to say, hey, I need you, are you recording this? I need you to turn off your device. Kind of like how customers will come on Zoom and say, hey, can we turn off the recording, right? So if we're constantly capturing context all the time, I feel like there's going to be some interesting social changes where you might have to say, hey, Ryan, I need you to turn off your sort of, open AI device before we continue this
No,
conversation because that's weird,
I know.
right?
Yeah, I mean, it's people are being really hostile about it. It's interesting. A good buddy of mine, Danny Newman. Shout out to Danny, great entrepreneur here in Denver. But he's got a cool Vibe meetup group, and first time I went over there, I didn't notice. I'm just chopping it up with them, catching the Meta glasses on, and he's got like the B computer pendant.
Okay, you got
So
the
I
name.
noticed
Good
this.
job. Yeah.
So I, the second time I went to the meetup group, I saw it was on both of them. And so then I immediately got paranoid and was like, oh my God, what did I say the last time? You know,
Right.
because
Oh my
I've been
gosh.
known
And then I'm sure his story is, hey, I just want to, I like these moments. I want to be able to recollect on them and document them. What gives, right? And I think that'll be the approach people want, just like we all take photos in our iPhones today, right? So it'll be interesting.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know that I watched that video, and I was like looking at the Sam Altman, Joni Ives love story on YouTube. This is the weirdest video I've ever seen. But I was
Yeah.
looking like it's got to be in here. You know what I mean? They have to have the device somewhere, like, Easter egged in there, but I couldn't figure it out. I don't know. We'll see.
Cringe, I don't know if it was intentional, but cringe marketing works, Ryan. You make something so
That's it.
cringy that people meme it and create Reddit posts just about, they just want to kill you online for how cringy it is. What ends up happening? More people are talking about it. So
That's a good point.
maybe Sam Altman's a genius and he knew what he was doing with the cringe factor. We'll see.
Cringe marketing. Nice. I love that.
There you
New
go.
agency service. Like, oh yeah, we're awful. We're really
We're
bad.
gonna
You're
make
gonna
you
love it.
sound so cringy. It's gonna be great. Yeah.
Cool. A couple of quick questions for you. Um, what's something you wished exist right now, but it doesn't exist now?
Oh gosh, putting me on the spot. Yeah, I think something. Gosh, I'm always trying to just improve the predictability and reliability of the AI in our product, and to have true enterprise scale and deployment, things need to be really predictable and reliable. And so, one learning we had the first 6 months of the company on one of the first features we built was 99.9% accurate is 100% wrong when communicating the sales numbers, right? And you'll read all day that, oh, you're just not breaking down your prompts smartly enough, or now there's MCP. But I guess that's just always been an area of improvement. Is I know what enterprise deployment really looks like and what it really means, and the leniency is low. If you're asking ChatGPT for, hey, give me directions to get to Yosemite for my family vacation and plan a family vacation for, you've got all sorts of leniency, right? It can tell you to take the wrong highway. You're okay with it. You know the right one anyway. But when you're asking to put together the sales forecast weekly and you're about to ship that out to 200 reps, CRO, a bunch of other people, the accuracy's got to be perfect, right? And so that's just something I'm always thinking about, Ryan. I blank on like a cool product on the spot that I want in my hands right now.
A protein shake with 200 grams of protein in it.
Yes,
Just 8 scoops.
just right there. That doesn't mess with your digestive tract in some way. I think that would be amazing.
Nice. If you're going to school, college today, if you're considering the career and all of your accomplishments and then
Hmm.
the future where you see the puck going, what would you study?
Maybe law. Think
Really?
Yeah, I think so. I think that or sure computer science as well. Not that I think that necessarily those are great investments given where we are in the world and how much learning you can do in the real world. practically speaking, just by working on cool teams, cool products, cool projects early on in your career. I really believe your 20s, you should just be shooting your shot, trying to do as many things as possible and really learning. In your 30s, you can capitalize on that experience. But from an education standpoint, I think being able to make complex arguments and break down complex thoughts, I think there's a lot that I would learn from going to law school. So that would be interesting. Yeah, maybe that would be cool to
That's
have
a
on
good
a
one.
resume. Yeah.
I think about law as like it's one of those professions that does seem to be disrupted or disruptable by AI agents in a big way. But to your point, studying law, the presentation of argument, the support, the cross-examination, that kind of thing would be instrumental on like really how you're tackling a problem, right? And it kind of like splintering off the logic from there.
100%. Yeah. Caveat to my answer. It's not necessary. This would be like disruption aside, what really I would want to learn.
Sure.
Totally with
Yeah.
you on that.
Amazing. Chris, this has been a great conversation. Is there anything I should have asked you but didn't?
No, man, there was no sort of script for this one, Ryan. So I'd love to come back anytime. Really enjoyed this. Customers, if they want to get access to our product, they can go to getbrev.ai. That's getbrev, BREV.ai, and sign up on our wait list. And we'd love to work with chiefs of staff, VPs of biz ops, and teams that are trying to execute big, hairy, audacious goals. That's what we're focused on.
I love it. And where can people connect with you online?
Yeah, I'm LinkedIn /Chris Pitchford, pitch like baseball, Ford like car, Chris Pitchford. And I'm the same on most social media platforms.
Amazing. Chris, thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you so much, Ryan. Really appreciate the invite and excited, man. Thanks so much and all the best to you.
Hey, founders, let me ask you this. Are you building with AI or getting left behind by it? If you're serious about scaling smarter, faster, and bolder, you need to check out AIforfounders.co. It's your go-to resource for cutting through the noise and actually using AI to grow your startup. Each week, AI for Founders drops a sharp, no-fluff newsletter, dives deep with expert guests on the podcast, and hosts monthly workshops where you can get your hands dirty with the real tools and strategies. Whether you're pre-seed or Series B and beyond, launching something new, or just staying sharp, AI for Founders gives you the edge you need to win in 2025 and beyond. Hit AIforfounders.co to subscribe to the newsletter, tune into the podcast, and grab your spot in the next workshop. And it's all free. Build smarter, move faster, think bolder with AI for Founders. Now back to the show.